Hi and welcome to the Malat cookery channel. So today is another Chinese takeaway recipe. I'm going to be making chicken with barbecued pork and mushroom. So apologies if you're not into Chinese food that much. I know I've done a lot of Chinese recipes recently, but I just want to get these videos out while the instruction and the recipe is actually still quite fresh in my mind. This is actually one of my favourite Chinese takeaway recipes, chicken with barbecue pork and mushroom. It has some very subtle flavours in there. So asking the chef who's given me this recipe how to actually construct this successfully, because I've had this in the past from one or two Chinese takeaways and it's been quite bland. So the chef thinks that what happens is as pressure increases, especially through the pandemic, of chefs having to produce food even quicker than they normally do, what's happening in some Chinese restaurants and takeaways is the chefs are actually almost flash frying food. So they're having at least a centimetre of oil in the bottom of the wok. The food or the ingredients go into that oil, that hot oil, and literally stay there for 10, 15, 20 seconds before being placed through a sieve and then placed to one side while the rest of the ingredients are done. That really does speed up the cooking process, but what they miss is this phenomenon called wok hei, which is the flavour of the wok coming through into the food. Now you can get away with that from something like, or potentially you can get away with it making things like satay or Szechuan, something spicy, but with something like this dish, this chicken with barbecue pork and mushroom, it's basically an oyster sauce recipe which has really subtle flavours. So this dish relies on that wok hei, or the flavour of the wok coming through into the dish. Obviously you won't get that if you're flash frying. So he thinks that's basically where the majority of the problems come from when we're talking about really delicate flavours in food, like as we have with this recipe. It could well be, obviously the seasonings are wrong, but he thinks that's the main issue here. So what I'm trying to say, hopefully successfully, is that the flavour of the wok, we talk about over 50% of the flavour from Chinese food in wok cooking coming from the wok. This phenomenon, this wok hei, is so important for a dish like this. So we need to make sure that that wok has a minimum amount of oil in it, and also that it's as hot as we can possibly get it in order to get that flavour through to the food. As usual, a full list of ingredients will be given at the end of the video, so let's have a look at those ingredients now and anything else we're going to need for today. So for the ingredients, we'll start with the sauce or the seasonings. So we've got 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce to act as the seasoning, 2 tablespoons of dry white wine, 1 teaspoon of ginger garlic paste, 1 teaspoon of corn flour, 50 mils of cold water, teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of MSG. Right, so for the main body of this recipe, I've got 6 closed cupped mushrooms which have been quartered. I've got half a small white onion which has been sliced. I've got a large spring onion which has been chopped. About 1/3 of a chicken breast fillet which has been thinly sliced. I've got some char siu pork or Chinese barbecue pork. I recently did a recipe video on how to make this, and I'll put a link in the description below to that video. And I've got, this is enough by the way for at least 2 adult portions, and I've got about 5 slices of char siu pork per portion, so there's 10 slices of char siu pork in there, cut quite thinly. Also got some pak choy or bok choy, it's the same thing, Chinese cabbage, and I've taken about 4 leaves of that and just thinly sliced it. And we're also going to be placing about half a teaspoon of corn flour into the chicken with a little bit of cold water as a prep, standard sort of Chinese restaurant or takeaway prep for chicken before we fry it. So just to save time for the video, I've already blended the sauce ingredients together just to make sure they're well combined. So obviously I've told you what the ingredients are and which quantities, and it's just a case of mixing all those into a jug. The next thing to do is we take our chicken, and we just want to prep this chicken by sprinkling a little bit of corn flour over the top. Adding just a little bit of water, maybe a teaspoon, and just mix all that together. Just make sure that that chicken is well coated with that corn flour solution, and then I'm just going to reserve this to one side. Right, so the first thing we want to do is I've got our well seasoned wok. It's got about 1 centimetre of water in the bottom, just bringing that up to a simmer, and then we want to simmer the chicken for literally a couple of minutes until it's cooked through. Once I've done that, I'm going to drain the chicken into a sieve and then rinse under water just to get rid of any remaining corn flour, and then reserve that chicken to one side. Okay, so that's our chicken done. As I said, into the sieve, and I can get it washed. So once we've reserved that chicken to one side, I've cleaned the wok out. It's got some oil in the wok. I've made sure that the inside of the wok is coated in that oil. Oil's coming up to temperature now, so I'm just getting rid of any excess, because we just want enough oil to basically just coat the inside of the wok. As I said before, that wok flavour, really important, so we need to get this wok up to a decent temperature first before we start cooking. So the first thing we want to do is the mushrooms. So we can go our mushrooms, and these are going to cook in here for about a minute. Right, so I'm just going to reserve these mushrooms to one side. So just a little bit more oil in that wok, and get rid of any excess. Up to a nice high temperature again. And in goes the onion. Cook this for about a minute. The pak choy, again about a minute for the pak choy to cook. And the spring onion. The char siu. And we're just going to heat that char siu through for, again, about a minute. Back in with our chicken. And the mushrooms. And we're just going to fry this for about 2 minutes. Right, in with our blended sauce, and again just a little bit at a time until you get the right amount of sauce for your taste. Right, just another 30 seconds and then that dish is done. So there you go, chicken with barbecue pork and mushroom. Really subtle, delicate flavors, but absolutely delicious. As I said at the start of the video, one of my favorite all-time Chinese takeaway dishes. Please subscribe to the channel, and as usual, if you've enjoyed this particular video, hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.